Hi, thanks so much for joining me today. We're going to talk about subjectivity in qualitative research in this screencast. After viewing the screencast, you will be able to define subjectivity, discuss its relevance to qualitative research, and describe one way to systematically assess your own subjectivities as a qualitative researcher. What do you see in the following images? Do you see a girl's face or a saxophone player? An older couple eye-gazing, or musicians playing together? A duck or a rabbit? A beautiful young woman or her much older stepmother? Better known as illusion images or optical illusions, these images provide an experience of distorting perception. Does what you see first matter? Does what you think you saw mean anything? After being cued to see the image in a different way, were you able to simultaneously see both images? The way we know something can be influenced by what your eyes or mind fixated on first. And if you're flexible and open to a new perspective, after receiving new information, your mind's eye can shift. Often our perspective is also influenced by what part of a story, image, or piece of information we receive, as illustrated here. Depending on our perspective, we may see the same thing quite differently, and both our truth and our biases will be informed by the narrow view we may have taken. How zoomed in or how panned out we see an image, hear a story, or learn of new information can vastly change our opinion, thoughts, emotion, and feelings about something. What do these images bring up for you? What thoughts arise? Do you have any visceral reactions? Any stories pop into your minds? Do you have feelings of joy, fear, happiness, disgust, excitement, distrust? What do you notice about what these symbols and images elicit? And what does all of this have to do with qualitative research? As we know, in qualitative research, the researcher is the instrument by which data is collected. And even before the data is collected, the research project is framed and designed by the lens of the researcher. Data collection happens through this same lens, as does analysis and writing. The entire research process is essentially an extension of the perspective and perception of the researcher, something that may cause many positivist researchers to cringe and perhaps deem qualitative research as uncredible and subjective. In qualitative research, this concept is called subjectivity. Subjectivity can be defined as the thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and desires that compromise a person's self-identity. Subjectivity is specific to a particular individual, modified or affected by personal views, experience, or background. And it is the quality of an investigator that affects the results of observational investigation. So if we all have subjectivity, just as we all have perspectives and perceptions, now that we've attended to this reality, why does this matter to us as qualitative researchers? Well, it does matter. It matters a lot. And in order to enhance quality and rigor in our research projects, we need to systematically and continually reflect on our subjectivities as researchers. The Sage Encyclopedia on Qualitative Research Methods states that it is imperative for researchers to be aware of their values and predispositions and to acknowledge them as inseparable from the research process. Social scientists should acknowledge their own subjectivity in the research process. Alan Peshkin suggests that subjectivity is inevitable and argues researchers should systematically seek out his or her subjectivity while the research is actively in progress. Subjectivity guides everything from the choice of topics that we study to formulating our original research questions to selecting methodologies and again analyzing and writing up our data and findings. In qualitative research, the researcher is encouraged to reflect on the values and objectives he or she brings to research and how these affect the research process. These values and objectives are our subjectivities. So how do we do that? How do we systematically address our subjectivity in order to enhance quality and rigor for both our readers and ourselves? One way is through a subjectivity statement. Kathy Ralston suggests that there are several strategies to account for and address subjectivities, one of which being a subjectivity statement. Others include research journals, interview of the researcher, and analysis of the interviewer's work. So a subjectivity statement, which is what we'll focus on here, is a summary of who the researcher is in relation to who or what she is studying. It is not an autobiography because the emphasis is not about the researcher, but about the researcher in relationship to whom or what is being studied. This suggests that a subjectivity statement may change depending on the research project. Dr. Ralston also states subjectivity may help a researcher examine personal interests before choosing a research topic, and that these statements should be considered a living document, which are revised and edited throughout the researcher's career. The purpose of a subjectivity statement is to help researchers identify their personal features, experiences, beliefs, feelings, cultural standpoints, and professional predispositions that may affect their research, and convey this material to other scholars for their consideration of the study's quality. Qualitative researchers have the opportunity to examine and reflect on their perspectives and assumptions about their research project, including who they are and their relationship with their subjects. Again, the emphasis is not on the researcher, him or herself, but on the relationship to what is being studied. If you don't yet have a subjectivity statement, it's a great idea to get started now, regardless of where you are in your research process. Remember to revise your statement at least annually and consider it a living document. And subjectivity statements can help you craft future research agenda and future research projects. Just as we've all had feelings and emotions since we were children, subjectivity is not a novel concept that we need to learn. Rather, since we've all had these subjectivities our entire lives, what we need to learn is how to address and evaluate our own subjectivities related to our research projects. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you feel like you've learned something about qualitative research and subjectivity.